Forget everything you thought you knew about animals in America and pedal your way through a real-life Jurassic Park. Or head to the only place in the country where you can see native polar bears taking over a tiny town.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
And head south for one monster of an invasion.
Hila.
Or make your way to Boomtown for a passion play that'll get you all aflutter. Welcome to your field guide to the most incredible wildlife in America. This is the United States of animals. And this is a real Jurassic Park, where American alligators roam free along the Everglades' 15-mile Shark Valley Trail. Get ready for the Gator Gauntlet.
We got an alligator right in the road, folks.
If you take a winter trip to the Everglades National Park just outside of Miami, you can walk, bike, and ride amongst the closest living creatures to dinosaurs on the planet.
We saw probably 20 to 30 alligators just right off the trail.
You don't know what they're going to do. They're wild animals.
They're not on 6.
Now, the alligators that you see are nothing less than a living dinosaur, folks. Alligators have not changed for over 200 million years.
Yeah, the teeth are a little intimidating. I mean, you see the fangs coming out. It looks like a Loch Ness monster.
Weighing in at 1,000 pounds and reaching as long as 15 feet, gators aren't quite as big as old Nessie, but they give her a run for her money. And these colossal creatures have up to 80 teeth. You and I have only 32. All those teeth produce a bite force of nearly 3,000 pounds. That's the weight of 2 grand pianos, a Harley, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mike Tyson, and The Rock combined. Ouch.
It's pretty unreal. The bike tour is a good idea, and it's nice because then you can slowly glide by everything, and then you don't have to actually stop because you don't want to get mauled.
And while you might need sunscreen, gators need to soak in the rays. As members of the reptile family, they rely on the sun to warm up their cold blood. Their ideal temperature is between 82 and 92 degrees, so our pro tip for seeing the most gators is head out on a sunny day. Another pro tip, keep a safe distance. Rangers recommend about 10 to 15 feet.
It just seems like his arms and his legs are more in the ready position to move. It makes me want to just keep my eyes on him.
They're actually not all that interested in you or me, but when you're this close, it's hard not to be a little scared.
Anytime you have an animal with big visible teeth and a big mouth, people tend to be a little afraid of it.
You think?
It is kind of a primal fear that a lot of people have of something that's creeping around in the water or perceived as sneaky.
But beneath that creepy surface, gators are actually works of evolutionary art.
They have a swim goggle called the nictitating membrane, which comes forward and covers the eye and protects it from underwater vegetation. They have excellent vision above and below the water. They actually have excellent hearing. Most people don't realize they have ears. They can open and close it at will.
And if you want to see the romantic side of these hardcore carnivores, follow our pro tip and book a late spring or summer trip when mating season is in full effect.
The courtship of the alligators. How romantic could it be? In fact, very romantic, folks.
These amorous amphibians bump noses and blow bubbles together. Maybe we could learn a thing or two from these randy reptiles. Gators stick together 70% of the time, while our divorce rate hovers around 40 to 50%. But to get the girl, it's all about that bass.
The bull alligators become territorial. They become aggressive towards each other. Pretty soon, the males are going to bellow to establish their territory.
Gators don't have vocal cords, so they suck air into their lungs and blow it out in bursts. The females know the louder the roar, the bigger the bull, and they come a-running. And if you come in August or September, you'll get to see the fruits of their labor.
The alligators require an incubation period of about 65 days. Sex is not determined at fertilization, but rather sex is determined by the temperature at which the nest is inside.
94 or higher makes males. 84 or below, female.
I was interested to see the babies hanging around with their mothers.
And one of the coolest things about them that really changes some people's minds is when they observe the maternal care that alligators give their young. They can stay from anywhere from 1 to 3 years with the mother. She will defend them during that time. Staying near her, they learn to be an alligator.
And to survive in the Everglades, there's a lot to learn. Like how to hustle for food.
Oh my God. I don't know how fast they move.
Try 11 miles per hour on land and 20 miles per hour in the water. Michael Phelps, he clocks in at a mere 6.
Alligators actually are deceptively slow looking. They move extremely quickly when they make a decision to go after prey. And they are explosive when they move.
As soon as I see one of their legs moving or something, then that just kind of puts me a little bit on guard.
Melissa,
Yeah, what kind of
You're
move?
supposed to be on this side, not me.
So when you make your way to the Everglades, make sure you follow some pro tips.
Whenever you're in an area near water in Florida, stay back from the water's edge a little bit. Don't behave like prey and don't behave like a predator. And realize you're in their environment.
It's their world, we're just living in it. So be smart. From the sweltering swamps of the Everglades to the frozen shores of the Arctic, where another apex predator is taking over. Meet the polar bear. Top of the Arctic food chain. Largest land carnivore in the world. And a good neighbor.
We have so many bears. You can call it polar bear capital of the world.
This is Koktovik, Alaska. Population 239. But from August to October, it's also home to one of the largest polar bear populations in the country. That's when this native whaling village harvests its 3 annually permitted whales, creating a blubber buffet that draws polar bears to town from their Arctic home. Koktovik is one of the only places in the U.S. where you can see a polar bear in the wild and up close.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So big.
Count the polar bears every morning, passing through the community, looking for food.
You can too if you follow this pro tip. Look up Boat Excursion ASAP. With only 6 slots per tour, seats sell out fast.
What's unique about this one, you can see polar bears 10 minutes after you leave your hotel in the safety of a boat. We have people from all over the world that just keep coming back.
With a wildlife viewing experience like this, it's no wonder people keep coming back. But what brings the polar bears to the mainland? They are hungry. Polar bears stand nearly 10 feet tall and weigh up to 1,700 pounds. That's almost a ton. So they need a lot of grub to fill their tanks. And like a pie eater at the county fair, these growlers can grab, gorge, and guzzle 100 pounds of blubber in one sitting. Trouble is, their habitat is melting. Fast. So, what's a bear to do? Follow its nose. Polar bears can smell prey up to half a mile away and 3 feet under the ice. They have one of the most intense senses of smell in the whole animal kingdom. But it's the smell of fresh whale, or muktuk as it's called up here, that brings the bears to Koktovik.
The leftover carcass of the whale, we bring out to the bone pile, which is at the end of the airport, and let the polar bears clean it all off. You can count 50 polar bears in this immediate area.
And there's a favorite polar bear that people come to see year after year. Meet Limpy.
This polar bear had a broken leg a few years back. Didn't look like it was going to survive, but there was a little bit of food at the bone pile that kept her going till freeze up. If it wasn't for the bone pile, would never survive.
After an amazing recovery, Limpy's mastered walking, running, and making healthy cubs. This year, she brought along 2 new additions. If you're lucky, when you're out polar bear viewing, you may even catch a little interspecies play, like we did with this Arctic fox. Now that could melt even the coldest heart.
You can sit around in the boat and watch the cubs playing for hours. Yeah, there's a lighter side to them.
I've seen a couple 8 o'clock in the morning when their mouths go at it like that.
For you, it's the wildlife experience of a lifetime. But for the people of Kaktovik, it's a way of life.
Most of them just walk right through the community, straight to the bone pile.
Well, most of the time. Every year, thousands of people participate in polar plunges to raise money for Special Olympics. Which celebrity took the plunge in 2015? Was it A, Lady Gaga, B, Bruce Willis, or C, Cher? The answer, when United States of Animals returns. Every year, thousands of people participate in polar plunges. But which celebrity took the plunge in 2015? The answer is A, Lady Gaga, in freezing Chicago. While we can barely stand a dip in freezing cold water temps, polar bears are perfectly at home. It helps to have a fur coat. But did you know polar bear fur isn't actually white? It's translucent. It only appears white because it reflects light. And that fur isn't the only thing keeping them warm. They have a fat layer that can be as thick as 4.5 inches. Makes the trip to Kaktovik's whale buffet all the more necessary.
When they're hungry again, they'll come in, they'll go to the bone pile, not the community.
Well, most of the time. There are so many bears roaming freely in Kaktovik that come nightfall, no one is allowed out of their dwelling without supervision. And just to be extra safe, there's a polar bear patrol made up of locals and fish and wildlife officers. And an animal alarm system. Our pro tip for the best experience? Keep your eyes and ears open for these playful polar interlopers during the day, and stay safely inside by the fire at night. We're heading south, way south, to the hottest desert in North America, the Sonoran Desert, where you have the chance to see a real-life monster up close. This is one of only a handful of venomous lizards in the world. Hello, Gila monster. And if you live in Arizona, you might find one in your own backyard.
Well, I was just worried because I've got my dogs locked up, but it was in the pool. I haven't actually seen one. And then to see one in my backyard, in my pool, I was freaked out.
Understandable. You probably would be too.
They have tremendously strong jaws. If he gets hold of your finger, you're not going to pull him off.
And that bite brings a lot of pain. There's a reason it's so painful. Unlike some venomous snakes that shoot venom through hollow fangs, Gila monsters grind their teeth into their prey, churning up flesh and releasing neurotoxic venom into its tissue. Yikes.
All right, little guy, hang on a second here.
That's the first time I've seen one, so, other than in a zoo.
All right.
And what do you do with him now?
What we're going to do is we're going to take him out to the desert. We can't take him very far. We can only move him about a quarter-mile away.
With standing water at a premium in the desert, it's no wonder Gila monsters are on the prowl for poolside cocktails. Lucky for them, they don't need a whole lot of H2O to survive.
They can actually store their water in their urinary bladder. They can leave the waste in the bladder, but reabsorb the water back into their bloodstream.
On a full bladder, a Gila monster can go 80 days without even a drop of water.
It's doing something that no other animal in the world is doing.
It's also doing something that no other lizard in the world does.
The Gila monster is truly unique among all desert vertebrates in the world in that they survive and feed solely on the contents of nests, so bird eggs, young mammals, reptile eggs.
Sounds like standard fare for a monster. And for Gilas, there's no place like home. That's why Arizona State requires rogue Gilas be relocated no further than a quarter mile from where they were found.
This is a lot of natural surrounding, thick vegetation where there's going to be rodents. Baby rodents are going to be in nests, and you're going to have quail out here, so they've got plenty to eat.
And man, do they eat. Gila monsters can suck down 1/3 of their body weight in one sitting. That'd be like a 200-pound man feasting on 67 pounds of food at Thanksgiving dinner. It's all because deserts can be slim pickings when it comes to food. So Gilas live off fat stored in their oversized tails when food is scarce. They actually only need about 3 or 4 meals a year to survive. If you haven't bumped into a Gila monster poolside, here's a pro tip on finding one. Come in the spring, because that's when these lounge lizards, yes, that's a real thing, a group of lizards is really called a lounge. That's when they make their way out of their underground lairs for mating season.
We're looking for Gila monsters commonly in the washes. They tend to like areas that are a little rocky and definitely where there's some considerable bush and brush. Wherever birds breed and rabbits breed, they like living there. Gila.
Gila monsters are actually helping humans in the fight against a major disease. Is it A, cancer, B, diabetes, or C, arthritis? The answer when United States of Animals returns. Gila monsters are helping humans fight which serious disease? The answer is B, diabetes. A synthetic version of Gila monster saliva is used to treat type 2 diabetes. It works by spurring insulin production after a meal when patients' blood sugar is high. But you won't see Gilas rushing out for praise anytime soon. These reclusive reptiles spend 95% of their lives underground. But here's a pro tip for getting your eyes on one. Since Gila monsters prey on bird eggs and baby mammals, springtime is feeding time. So look all you want.
Gila.
But leave the catching to the actual pros, who collect blood samples of Gilas for research before releasing them back into the wild.
All right. Nice adult, typical adult size for around here. It's a male, big swollen tail base. He's probably out cruising, either looking for food or a mate, probably both at this time of year. Gila monsters, in the spring, people like going for hikes. Gila monsters are out during the day, and so there's a little fear that maybe they'll come across one of these monsters and it could be a problematic thing. The reality is if you come across a Gila monster, you're one very lucky person.
Just make sure you're a smart person, too.
If you get too close and they feel cornered, they're going to back up and make a hissing sound. So reaching for a Gila monster that's gaping at you with its mouth open, it's kind of like reaching into a car window with a Rottweiler snapping and barking at you. It's not very bright.
He's right. When you pack your backpack for a Gila hike, make sure you save room for your common sense. We're heading from the Arizona desert to the grasslands of Nebraska, pretty much smack dab in the middle of the country, to take part in one heck of a feathered spectacle. This is the greater prairie chicken. Pretty standard fowl at first glance. But next April, head to Burwell, Nebraska for the annual Prairie Chicken Festival. And prepare to be blown away.
It's a sign of spring.
By a mating ritual so exotic,
they just make a spectacle of themselves.
That you have to see it and hear it.
They inflate these orange air sacs and it makes this booming noise, trying to reach those female ears, I guess.
To believe it.
Chicken started booming, and it's like, my God, it is really something.
Oh, it's something, all right. Booming is the pseudo-technical term for the male's mating call. It's a sound so loud it can be heard a mile away. At around 16 inches long and weighing 1.5 to 2.5 pounds, greater prairie chickens are about the size of a small domestic chicken. But unlike their cousins that only fly small distances, these prairie pioneers travel as far as 30 miles when searching for food. But as their group name implies, a little house of prairie chickens likes to stay close to home. Males stay within a few miles of their hometown booming ground. For the best views, follow this prairie pro tip. Book an early morning excursion to the official booming grounds, where just before sunup, Calamus Outfitters will load you into blinds, aka school buses, for a bumpy ride to Boomtown.
You can't see them, you can hear them. And so that really makes people set up on the edge of their seats, squinting in the darkness, trying to find that bird. And then as the sun comes up, you can slowly hear people, I see one, I hear it, it's right there.
These prairie chickens typically return year after year to the same spot to start their baby boom.
Amazing thing is that them birds have been doing this on the same ground for hundreds of years, every year.
Like a sunrise curtain call, all eyes are on the show. And what a show it is.
Each male has their little territory to defend, and so it's all about figuring out who the top bird is, and so they'll spar a little bit to settle who's most dominant.
It's like young men at a bar. They all puff up, they got a lot to say, but they really don't hurt each other too bad.
And when the ladies take the stage, it's like your 8th grade dance all over again.
They'll saunter through and size everybody up. And that's the time that the males just go crazy. They give it all they have. And they display and they stomp their feet really fast, and they'll click their tail feathers, and they'll inflate their air sacs, and they'll do their booming call and just try their hearts out. And the female just walks on by.
Here's a pro tip. All the action peaks in early to mid-April when the hens choose their mate. And only 1 or 2 of these guys will become the mayor of Boomtown and responsible for 90% of the mating.
And the females will then nest on the ground in the grass within a mile or 2 of where they were bred.
For the others, well, there's always next season. Forget everything you thought you knew about animals in America and hit the streets of New York to stalk a wild invader. Then head to see the biggest, baddest black bears in the country.
Get straight.
And camp with them?
Listen, did you hear?
And sneak a peek at a group of underground owls with their own fan club. Then gaze at a bizarre universe right under your feet. Welcome to the field guide to the most incredible wildlife in America. This is the United States of animals. And this may be one of the newest creatures in existence. And it's stalking the streets of New York City. A super mutt that lived in the shadows until it went bar hopping in Queens.
Look, oh my god. Oh my god.
He kind of came from the roof and walked across the perimeter of the bar. There it goes. There it goes.
Is that a coyote?
Not quite. It's a stealthy new breed called a coy wolf.
Coy wolf, more wolf-like, more dog-like, like a wild dog, like a more, what is it? We don't know.
Try all of the above. If New York's coy wolf was a cocktail, it'd be 1 part Wile E. Coyote with its cunning and speed, a little twist of Big Bad Wolf with enough strength to tackle a deer, and a dash of Fido. Pure street smarts. Mix well, and you've got a mutt built for the concrete jungle. Next time you're in the Big Apple, try something new. Why not go coy watching?
I would be surprised if I saw one. I didn't know they lived in New York.
We've looked for patterns of where they're going to be, and that's usually the big forested parks.
You want to go to a park and just keep your eyes peeled. Because chances are, their eyes are on you.
What danger is it to us? Do they eat people?
Don't worry, you're not on the menu. But one of New York's most famous animals is the rat. Coy wolves scarf down a bellyful a night. But how do these stealthy exterminators become one of New York City's newest animal immigrants?
Aggressive deforestation plus aggressive extermination of wolves triggered an expansion of coyotes into the western Great Lakes region.
In other words, downsizing. Since the 1900s, coyotes have been spreading east. And en route, they've met some hard-up suitors.
The few remaining male wolves had trouble finding mates of their own species, and they started interbreeding with female coyotes.
Now tens of thousands of their mixed descendants, the coy wolves, have hit the Northeast. And biologists are tracking them as they spread through the city and the burbs.
They can easily travel 100 miles from where it was born. And so we kind of have to come up with a strategy for looking everywhere all at once.
Mark Weckel and Chris Nagy are setting up motion-activated cameras all over the place. Their goal? To gather proof of just how far this new creature has spread.
This is just a little pellet. It smells like stinky cheese. And so we'll usually just kind of rub it on sticks and branches.
They're suckers for stinky cheese. After a couple of days, they'll find out if coy wolves are really here.
Squirrel. This might be a bust. Happens sometimes. Come on.
Then.
Oh. It's the back of something. Oh,
there he is.
Coming from the background.
A lone coy wolf, scratching, hunting, and living smack in the middle of the suburb of Queens.
That's good to see.
And that's not all. Trail cams have confirmed they're in Manhattan and the Bronx, too.
And we kind of get a little glimpse of the coy wolf's life.
But to help stalk the stalker, New York needs you. If you see one of these guys, make sure you report it to the Parks Department.
That's going to be our #1 way of tracking this colonization in real time.
And take a tip from the pros. They're here year-round. But you're more likely to see one when their pups are almost grown. From the end of summer through the fall. So get to the big city and hit the streets, parks, even a bar or two, and try to catch a glimpse of this marvel of nature, one of the newest New Yorkers out there. Now, we're headed for an adventure not for the faint of heart, in North Carolina's Poquoson Lakes National Wildlife Refuge. Meet the black bears. Hundreds of them live in and around the park. And meet the Lomans. They're here to spend the night with them.
For real, keep your eyes peeled, people. They're here. This is bear country.
Sound crazy? It gets crazier. Black bears ordinarily weigh up to a massive 600 pounds. But these aren't your ordinary bears.
Here we frequently get bears up in the 500 to 600 to 700 pound range. And every once in a while you'll see what I would call them a belly dragger, because there's very little clearance between their belly and the ground.
This is where they pillage and forage.
So why would the Lomans want to camp here? Simple. Did you know eastern North Carolina has one of the densest population of black bears in America? So if you want to see one in the wild, there's no better place.
I saw it. I see it. Right there. Oh my God.
He's huge.
Oh my God.
So how do these Carolina heavyweights get so heavy? Your basic bear diet is plants, insects, and the occasional tidbit of meat. But here in the Tar Heel state, they munch on crops too. Corn, wheat, and peanuts. Think extra calories, extra protein.
It's huge.
It's enough to turn a quarterback into a linebacker.
Go, 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 go. Go, go, go. We're gonna go. We're gonna miss out. Come through. I know it. It's gonna come through. Keep going. Keep going. Look at him. Woo!
Yes, it's thrilling to see bears in the wild, but don't forget, when it comes to a fight, these guys bring it. They've got bone-crushing jaws and muscle enough to kill a deer with a single swipe. Imagine what they could do to your nylon tent. And think you can outrun these sumo wrestlers? For the 2012 Olympics, the men's 100-meter qualifying time was 10 200 seconds. A black bear could run that in under 7. And chances are, you're not even as fast as an Olympian. But don't worry, we've got your back. We're going to explain how to protect yourself with basic human smarts. Let's hope the Lomans know, because things are about to get hairy.
Listen, listen. Did you hear?
Bears were once nearly gone from North Carolina. Who was one of the top musicians when they started coming back? Was it A, Elvis, B, Kenny Rogers, or C, Usher? Here's a hint. Like a gambler, he knows when to hold 'em. The answer, the United States of Animals, returns. Who was one of the top musicians when black bears started coming back to North Carolina? The answer is B, Kenny Rogers. Back in 1981, when Kenny Rogers was knocking out hits, North Carolina made a plan to preserve the bear's habitat. And since then, they've come back with a vengeance. There's one in particular we'd advise you to steer clear of. Bruno. This guy's a legend among the staff of the wildlife refuge. One of them once made the mistake of getting between Bruno and his dinner of corn.
I've chased him off. He stopped and turned around and started swaying back and forth and snapping his jaws. I had a little heart attack spell there. And I looked at him and said, Bruno, you can have the corn. It's yours.
I think this is supposed to go to the top.
Think you've got what it takes to camp around a powerhouse like Bruno?
Spread it out. Now we gotta anchor it.
No, listen, listen. Listen, did you hear it?
That's fine.
I'm a little bit nervous because I've been hearing a lot of weird sounds, and I'm just hoping that nobody shows up tonight. You know, no animals show up. Way big.
If a bear shows up to our campsite, what do you do?
I would throw my sweater at him so he would get distracted, and then I would run.
There's actually nothing to freak out about. Just follow these pro tips. Put all trash in designated garbage cans and store everything else that smells like food in your car. So that's like food, dishes, and whatever else touched the food. And your camp fuel and toiletries. Deodorant might not smell tasty to you, but these guys have a broad palate. Those are the basics, but be sure to check in with your park ranger.
Sophia, look at all these beans you left in here.
Get it all, because a black bear can smell a morsel of food from at least 2 miles away.
I'm not nervous. You know, we cleaned up properly.
But what would happen if they'd missed a bean or two? Earlier in the day, our crew set up a motion-activated camera a safe distance from camp. We'll check in with the bear cam in a bit. But first, it's about to get real in the Loman tent.
Do you hear that sound? No. What is it? I don't know. I heard some rustling of some leaves. And it's like really weird crunching sound. Can you hear it?
And back at the bear cam. Bring food in your tent, and this could be your sleeping bag. Ever wanted to get close enough to a bear to know what its breath smells like? Didn't think so. Next morning, the Lomans get a reminder to be more careful in bear country.
Every few feet, there's
Oh, wow.
Bear tracks.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a bear track. Wow. Here's another one. That's pretty close to our campsite. I don't like that at all. So we definitely have to keep a tighter ship on our campsite, okay?
If you do find yourself face-to-face with a Carolina belly dragger, whatever you do, don't run.
So if they're coming at you, you might just kind of, unzip your jacket kind of slowly, make yourself look bigger like this, and kind of back off slowly. don't turn your back on the animal until you're sure that, the threat is gone and he is headed the other direction.
But really, folks, odds are you're never going to get that close. So come pay a visit to the Feasting Kings of the Poquoson Lakes Wildlife Refuge. It's exciting, and it's safe.
It was the epitome of a wild vacation. I mean, it was amazing.
Next, we've got tickets to a once-a-year festival drawing hordes of folks from all around the world to Cape Coral, Florida. Here, every February, the city honors its most famous residents, the burrowing owls. But the fans aren't the only ones here to watch.
Hawks are their biggest predators.
Turns out these little guys lead a life of danger. At around 9 inches tall, burrowing owls are just about the smallest owls out there, and the only ones that live underground. Believe it or not, 2,000 of them have hidden lairs here in Cape Coral, holding up in yards, medians, even football fields. But uniqueness comes with some drawbacks.
Being a ground nesting bird, they're more vulnerable than species that would exist up in trees.
A predator doesn't have to fly or climb to sneak up on these guys. So the locals have stepped in to help.
We call our little group here the Owl Patrol.
They protect the owls by clearing away anything blocking the view from their nests.
We trim all this outside layer so the owls will be able to see all the predators because there's a lot of feral cats in Cape Coral. The owls may have to be able to see the 360 degrees.
As you'll see, the birds return the favor by bringing visitors galore to the Burrowing Owl Festival. And meet a celebrity couple. Don't be fooled by their size, because these sneaky critters are far from defenseless. How are most burrowing owls like your typical person? A, they don't fly. B, they don't kill their own food. Or C, they don't build their own house. The answer, when United States of Animals returns. How are most burrowing owls like your typical person? The answer is C, they don't build their own house. Across the country, these birds generally take over discarded prairie dog, skunk, or armadillo dens. But the burrowing owls of Florida are different. These guys usually do their own dirty work. It's one of the many things that makes Cape Coral's Burrowing Owl Festival the place to go to admire these tunneling birds of prey. You can see what they eat by dissecting a regurgitated owl pellet.
Oh, you got a tooth, don't you?
Even better, you can get a map of all the nests in town, so you can get a front row seat to the action.
You come down here and you see something totally unique that you have never seen before, never heard of.
Plus, did you realize this is one of the few owls that's not nocturnal?
What's unique about burrowing owls is that they're out almost all the time. And I think a lot of people are kind of taken aback by that.
There's 2 of them.
So, night or day, you can check in with one of Cape Coral's most popular couples, Otto and Olivia, as they dig out their burrow to lay eggs in. Soon, Olivia will be staying in to keep the nest warm, while Otto plays the role of supportive father.
His duties are to make sure it's comfortable for her, finding food for her, and standing guard and warning her that there is a predator that could get down into the burrow and get the eggs.
In the food chain, guys like Otto terrify the local insects, rodents, and small reptiles. But looking at the big picture, other raptors, cats, dogs, and coyotes have the size advantage, making the hunter the hunted. Otto's first line of defense is a well-made fortress to hide in. That's where he can bust out his 2 secret weapons. Like any owl, it chatters if you get too close. But this crafty devil's evolved to make a hiss that sounds like something absolutely deadly. Would you poke your head in a rattlesnake's den? Neither would a cat. And lining the entrance to Otto's den is another bit of deception to confuse the predators.
They collect animal feces, AKA poop. And they bring that to the nest. That's to hide the scent of the eggs.
Plus, the potpourri has another benefit. It attracts the dung beetle, a favorite owl snack. So, if you want to see life and death play out before your eyes, then Cape Coral is the place to be. The best time to be here is for the Burrowing Owl Festival in February, when the owls are just starting to nest. And if you want to see their chicks come out of the ground, visit in late April. But make sure to come by the end of June. Because when the summer sun comes out, these birds have enough sense to stay inside. Now, we're off to see a magical event that happens only twice a day. Just 20 miles south of San Francisco, in Moss Beach, California. Here, every time it's low tide, the ocean leaves pools of water behind, and each one's your own private aquarium. Want to see the weirdest things in the Pacific up close? Then come check out these mini ecosystems.
I grew up going to tide pools, and now we have kids of our own, and we want to make sure that they have the same experiences that we had.
Here's a tip for you. To max out your time here, make sure you hit the beach an hour before low tide. Up to a challenge? Then take your family on a scavenger hunt through the tide pool jungle.
Follow the way I go, okay?
I see like a little creature living down here.
What is it?
It's a giant green anemone. Silent, but violent. Tangle with those venomous tentacles, and that crab's a goner. First, it's paralyzed, then reeled in for dinner.
Let's see.
Over here. It's on the shelf.
Okay, what do you guys see under there?
It looks like meatloaf, but meatloaf doesn't move. The gumboot chite munches algae off the rocks with teeth as hard as a knife blade. They're coated with magnetite, making them 3 times harder than yours.
I found a sea star, you guys. You have to look really carefully. Did you guys see it?
Ever wondered how a leather sea star walks? Hydraulics. It pumps water to move its hundreds of tiny feet. These babies have been clocked at speeds approaching 6 inches a minute.
Where's the crab? Yeah, it was the same one.
There are blue band hermit crabs, purple sea urchins, and that's just for starters.
I love the tide pools. There's a lot to see and it's different. It is different every time.
Plan your visit for a weekend or holiday when volunteer naturalists are out to show you what's what at Moss Beach.
It's a treasure to come here, really. And you can't take any of the treasures that you see here, but you get to enjoy the experience.
And if you don't find all the creatures on your scavenger hunt list, all you have to do is wait until the next low tide. Forget everything you thought you knew about animals in America and hang with a tribe of feral monkeys.
It was like being in a Tarzan movie.
Race a pack of gray wolves at the helm of a dog sled.
That's pretty primal.
Laugh it up with a mob of rowdy sea lions. And gallop into the sea with a herd of wild ponies. Welcome to the field guide to the most incredible wildlife in America. This is the United States of animals. And this is the heart of the jungle.
I've never seen anything like it. This place is really pretty amazing.
We're on a remote river where the call of the wild echoes all around.
You aren't looking at animals from the other side of a cage. You see them in their natural habitat.
This is probably one of the best places in the world to view monkeys.
Come on, monkey! Monkey, monkey, monkey!
These are South Asian rhesus monkeys. But this isn't Thailand. We're in Central Florida, about 1 hour from Orlando.
I'm really not aware of anywhere else you can go and see monkeys in what seems like a wild.
That's because these guys are Asian immigrants. The Sunshine State is one of the few places in the country to see them. In this neck of the woods, a renegade clan of rhesus monkeys has taken over the shores of the Silver River.
There was probably a troop of 20 to 25 swinging from tree to tree. It was like being in a Tarzan movie.
Funny you should say that. These monkeys are here due to one man with a scheme inspired by the silver screen.
Well, the monkeys have been here since the late 1930s. They were brought in by Colonel Captain Toohey.
Captain Toohey ran a jungle cruise on this very river. After the 1932 hit Tarzan the Ape Man inspired a slew of sequels, he saw a surefire way to boost ticket sales. Toohey knew folks couldn't resist seeing an island teeming with exotic wild monkeys.
Colonel Toohey brought the monkeys down here. They released them on the island.
And he couldn't resist the sight of dollar signs, even at the expense of the rhesus monkey. But there was one thing he didn't count on.
They probably weren't there more than a half hour and they swam off the island.
What Captain Toohey didn't know was that rhesus monkeys can swim at 2 days old. What were you doing at 2 days? Exactly. Rhesus monkeys can live anywhere. Swamps, mountains, deserts, even cities. If there's food to be found, these monkeys will thrive. By the mid-70s, 6 monkeys had turned to 80. How many today? No one really knows. And some folks in Florida aren't so happy about this monkey invasion. Today, they wander the state at will, with sightings as far as 100 miles away from the Silver River.
You don't introduce new species to an area. Sometimes they have a negative impact on the ecosystem.
So don't monkey around, and get here soon in case these primates are sent packing. Captain Toohey may have lost his shirt betting on aquatic monkeys, but he was right on the money about one thing: location.
The reason the monkeys are on the Silver River, and the reason they've been so successful, is because the warm waters from the springs creates a lot of lush vegetation.
That might be why most of Toohey's tribe sticks to the shores of the river. And to see these monkeys in all their glory, you should too.
The Silver River really is a unique place when it comes to viewing monkeys. They make a whole day of it. It's just a really nice time.
And these rhesus monkeys love a good romp. It seems like that's all they ever do.
It's much like watching kids interact. I see a lot of link between the monkeys and ourselves.
Maybe that's why rhesus monkeys have played a huge role in the lives of humans. They're the first primates to get rocketed into space, the first primates cloned, and the first monkey to have their genome sequenced. Fame hasn't changed these monkeys at all, but it has inspired a unique fan base.
They're absolutely superb to watch, such fun as they frolic around. Obviously thoroughly enjoy life.
Yeah. But honestly, this is serious monkey business. This isn't a zoo. No one's making sure they have food to eat. They're totally on their own. Rhesus monkeys live and travel in troops. And in these communities, they'll raise their young, find food, and protect each other. Males are loners, constantly roaming and never sticking with any one troop. So the ladies tend to call the shots.
Females actually run the society. They are the ones that determine what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
Maybe these ladies can go toe-to-toe with a meandering male, but you can't. Here's a pro tip to remember. Don't stare at a rhesus monkey. It's more than rude. It's downright dangerous.
You stare at a monkey, to them, that's a threat. The alphas are going to answer that threat. People have been bitten, peed on. Monkeys can be dangerous.
Tourist boats don't get this close.
John.
Hey. But ours did.
John, back up. Get out.
Okay.
These monkeys don't mess around.
They do protect the area they're in against intruders. You don't want to give the monkeys the opportunity to get themselves in trouble.
They can do that all by themselves. And even though this band of wild monkeys live here year-round, the perfect time to plan a boat tour on the Silver River is early spring. You avoid the full blast of Florida heat and enjoy a rare moment with the monkeys. Cruising the Silver River feels like you've gone across the world and back in time.
It's a jungle in North America.
This is truly a slice of heaven.
Even though Captain Tui's idea of bringing wild monkeys here wasn't the best, almost 80 years later, these primates are doing just fine in Florida. Pack your snow gear because we're leaving sunny Florida and heading far north to brave the bitter cold of Ely, Minnesota. We're thousands of feet above Superior National Forest, a 3 million acre swath of woods, water, and wolves.
Seems like they're on that side of this clearing right here.
Minnesota is home to 2,900 gray wolves. And it's one of the best places in the lower 48 to spot the elusive predator. But while officials can track wolves from the air,
They're up there. They're heading towards this clearing over here.
you can do it on the ground. Race with wolves in an extreme adventure that puts you in the musher stand.
Dog sledding is about the adventure, the thrill of going fast.
And hang on tight as you speed toward an overnight destination that'll give you chills. A night in a yurt on a frozen lake, surrounded by gray wolves.
Hearing a wolf howl, that's pretty primal.
Those wolves may sound close enough to blow your yurt down, but can you guess how far those spine-tingling howls can travel? Is it A, 3 miles, B, 10 miles, or C, 18 miles? The answer when the United States of Animals returns. The gray wolf has an impressive set of lungs. Did you guess how far the sound of a wolf can travel? The answer is B, a whopping 10 miles. Hearing gray wolves in Ely isn't a problem. Seeing the elusive animals is the hard part. That's why your first stop in Ely is the International Wolf Center, where you can book a night in a backcountry yurt and choose your dog sled team. Because these crafty carnivores are one tough act to follow. And to find a wolf, you gotta think like a wolf. Or at least your tour guide does. The Alaskan Husky, a breed that shares 99.8% of its genes with the gray wolf.
Either people here domesticated dogs from the wolves, or dogs they had with them interbred with wolves because they found a high content of wolf DNA.
It's easy to spot, even at first glance. Pointy ears, bushy tails, thick fur coat, and the innate, overwhelming desire to run.
They are genetically programmed to be sled dogs. They get to be 4 months of age, and they just go.
Just be sure to take this pro tip from the local experts. To score the best odds of seeing Ely's wolves, come in February.
February is the breeding season, so that means they're marking territory, their hormones are peaked. That activity means that you're probably going to see or hear wolves.
Then hold on for the ride of your life, because it won't take long for these huskies to hone in on wolf tracks.
Everyone knows that the wild animals are there, but seeing signs of that, walking on the same frozen lakes that you are on, is pretty incredible.
You can actually see all the details of all 4 paws, the nails as well. You can see their main pad. I can see that there's multiple wolves here, most likely.
At 110 pounds and 6.5 feet long, the male gray wolf leaves one heck of a print. But how do you know you're looking at wolf tracks? Well, right off. Size. They're as large as a grapefruit, and they'll always show claws, unlike a cat track. And here's a pro tip. If the tracks meander, you're not looking at a wolf print. More likely, it's your furry friend Fido.
That's not typical for a wolf. A wolf is going somewhere when it moves.
It's on the hunt, and so are we. While our pack is taking us to our overnight destination, the wolf pack is searching for prey. At a steady lope of 5 miles per hour, these long, lean carnivores can tirelessly cover 50 miles of territory a day looking for food.
They're always in search of vulnerable prey. It is not easy to make a living as a wolf.
Gray wolves can bring down massive prey, such as moose and bison, but not alone. It takes the pack to score a game that big, because a family's gotta eat. Gray wolves hunt and live in packs of 6 to 10, 2 parents and their offspring. Yep, even in a wolf family, mom and pop call the shots, especially during a hunt. The stalking wolves test their prey. If they run, then it's game on, until their pack can bring down their kill. Their formidable jaws possess 406 pounds of crushing force.
They're able to bite through like a moose femur. Wolves have to be able to hold on to kicking, fleeing prey with their teeth.
We don't want to be their next meal, so it's a good thing we've reached our home away from home.
It's so much fun. The adventure is thrilling. I recommend it for anybody.
And despite those spine-tingling howls, you'll be safe and warm inside before the wolves come knocking at your door. We're leaving the chilling howls of Minnesota behind and heading for the Pacific Coast. To chill with San Francisco's harbor masters, the sea lions.
They're crazy, they just attack each other. It's good fun. Watching them have a bit of a brawl, it's good fun.
These rowdy rogues have barked their way into the hearts of locals and tourists alike. And no one's been able to steal the spotlight from these playful pinnipeds for a quarter century.
We came to the pier today to help celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Sea Lions.
The Sea Lions have been coming to Cape Cod since 1990, which is a very long time that they've been coming here and making people smile.
And when you come to smile at the Sea Lions, here's a sweet tip. Plan your visit in the winter. Time it with the herring run, when these big boys gather to feast on their favorite meal. It's a dock party you won't want to miss. But sorry, ladies, this is strictly a boys' club.
Mostly what you're seeing here are all males. The females are all down south in Southern California where they stay close to the pups. Males are migrating for more food that's up here.
It's male bonding on a heavyweight scale.
Sea lions are an incredibly social animal. They have to be in close proximity to each other.
But with sea lions, father knows best.
What we're seeing is actually big bull males letting the little ones play with them, and ultimately they're teaching them.
And these clever sea lions have thrown the learning curve a loop. What skills do both sea lions and humans possess? Is it A, recognizing themselves, B, using logic to solve problems, or C, using tools to catch prey? The answer when the United States of Animals returns. These clever sea lions have thrown the learning curve a loop. The amazing skill they share with humans is B, using logic to solve problems. New research shows these savvy sea lions understand the transitive property of equality. Right. It's actually just a fancy name for something all kids learn in school. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Pretty impressive logic for a sea lion. But when it came to choosing their spot in the San Francisco Bay, the equation was simple. Location plus location equals location.
I know that they're very smart because look what they've got here. There's no predators. They get easy access to their food supply and lots of adoration from a big fan base.
And they're a sight to behold. But to get a bird's eye view, zoom in with this pro tip.
Best advice I can give people is use your binoculars, use your camera to get close to the animals. Remember, they're wild animals. The best and most respectful thing we can do is love the heck out of them from a distance.
And there's a whole lot of sea lion to love. Registering a whopping 2,200 pounds for the largest of the species, they're about as heavy as a small car. But these mammals still swim like fish, reaching speeds of 18 miles per hour. They can dive to depths of 600 feet and hold their breath for 20 minutes, making them as comfortable in the water as they are on land.
They're nice, different from Brazil.
But Pier 39 didn't always have sea lions. It wasn't until 1990 when Mother Nature shook things up.
Because the California sea lions arrived right about the time of the Loma Prieta earthquake, forever it will be linked in kind of the history of this region and in the storytelling of the sea lions coming here.
A huge herring run, rather than the quake, is more likely the reason they took up roost on the pier. But locals think it was an act of kindness that brought the sea lions to their hometown.
We had a man step off his boat at 2 o'clock in the morning onto a sleeping huge adult male. He said he didn't know who screamed the loudest, him or the big guy.
They named him Melvin.
It was about an 800-pound male, and he had a piece of filament around his neck. Other than that, he was pretty healthy.
They removed the plastic from his neck and sent Melvin on his way. The good deed quickly became front-page news in the sea lion world.
Within 2 months, we had 500 sea lions.
Melvin told one friend, who told another friend.
First, it was crazy town here, and the tenants were trying to get to their boats, literally sort of fight their way down the dock.
City officials had to scramble to accommodate both man and beast.
What we did was we relocated them, the tenants, not the sea lions. They were actually fine with that.
As a matter of fact, the entire city has embraced the colony of sea lions, creating a rare chance for wild animals and humans to coexist in perfect harmony.
You have the city, but at the same time, you're able to enjoy the wildlife, the best of both worlds.
Animal stories are wonderful, especially a story like this because it's a happy story. We're looking forward to another 25 years of having them here. Come down and see them.
And now we're heading east to watch a wild pony roundup like no other.
We've been doing this coming up on our 90th year.
But this isn't Wyoming or Montana, and these wild horses aren't charging to a corral. Welcome to Assateague Island, Maryland, where each summer, 150 wild ponies make a run for the sea.
You'll not see this anywhere else in the whole world.
And this epic pony swim is all for a good cause. But hold your horses. How did wild ponies end up on an island in the Atlantic? Assateague is a 37-mile barrier island that stretches along the Delmarva Peninsula. what? Aptly named. This peninsula spans 3 states: Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. But when you're surrounded by endless white beaches like these, you might as well be on Treasure Island, complete with legends, lore, and a herd of wild ponies. What makes a horse a pony instead? It all boils down to size. Any horse under 14.2 hands is called a pony. A hand's equal to 4 inches. But Mother Nature always knows best. A shorter body means shorter legs. One big asset for wild ponies.
They have a great advantage by being smaller. They don't break bones as easily as they move around on the marsh.
And these feral ponies are always on the go.
A lot of people are really surprised that they are allowed to roam freely, just to see the look of wow on their face.
But the real wow factor is how these wild horses got here. While there are no records to confirm, legend says they're pirate ponies that survived the shipwreck.
It is believed that a Spanish galleon sunk off the coast of Assateague back in the 1600s, and on that Spanish galleon was a herd of ponies. And we believe that they swam ashore.
And 400 years later, their descendants are diving into those very same waters. Assateague and Chincoteague are sister islands, separated by an 80-yard channel. And every summer, in order to maintain a healthy pony population, 150 wild ponies take the plunge for the annual pony swim and auction.
It is where the saltwater cowboys of the fire company round up the ponies over on Assateague and bring them over to Chincoteague. The auction helps raise money for the Chincoteague Volunteer Fire Company for us to purchase necessary life-saving equipment such as ambulances, fire trucks.
It's not every day you see a herd of wild horses run headlong into the ocean. Maybe that's why the pony swim has been around for 90 years.
Everybody's excited. When the ponies hit the water and you hear that 50,000 people and they're cheering and they're clapping, it's an experience that you'll never forget.
The Pony Swim and Auction have become legendary, inspiring a 6-day celebration during the last week of July every summer. But if your heart is set on seeing horses swim, take this pro tip and get to the island between Wednesday and Friday. After the auction,
Sold it, $1,375.
grab a beach chair and watch feral ponies frolic in the sand.
It's really special to be able to watch the horses run down the beach. There's no place else that you're going to find that except for here on Assateague.
And if you have a couple days to spend on the island, be sure to take your sleeping bag for a night under the stars.
We highly recommend camping as opposed to staying in a hotel because being on the island at night is literally a completely different world.
Just be sure to stamp out the fire and store your grub.
In Yosemite, they have problems with bears. We like to refer to horses as our bears. They're notorious for campground raids when they're looking for food, as well as beach blanket raids.
That's right. These pirate ponies will steal your booty in a heartbeat. But on this island paradise, you won't even mind a bit. Forget everything you thought you knew about animals in America and grab a front row seat to a real-life clash of the titans.
Whoa, they didn't see each other.
As bighorn sheep battle it out for breeding rights. Paddle up to a celebrity sea otter that's saving the planet.
It's incredible.
And track the world's tiniest bird in a desert oasis. Then head east to see dolphins like you've never seen them before.
Oh, there it is.
On land. Welcome to your field guide to the most incredible wildlife in America. This is the United States of animals. And this is the Ram Slam. It's a brutal display that will take your breath away. When one of America's biggest native herds of Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep face off in the ultimate battle. The battle for breeding rights.
Oh my God, they're hitting each other.
And the best place to see this Slam Fest is in the fall in Georgetown, Colorado, just outside of Denver. You see, out here, football season means mating season. And the fans pull out all the stops.
We have this festival on a yearly basis during the rut in November, December, and that's when you have an opportunity to see these big bachelor herds duking it out for the females.
There's only like 7,000 of these things in the whole state. We got 14 of them right here.
You don't have to go on some severe hike. We have our volunteers set out across town with spotting scopes, binoculars, looking for sheep, so when you show up, we're gonna find you some sheep.
During a clash, charging speeds reach up to 20 miles per hour, creating about 800 pounds of force on impact. That's nearly twice as much force as getting a roundhouse kick in the head from a champion Taekwondo fighter. And that Ram Slam can be heard as far as a mile away. For most of the year, bighorn sheep hide out at elevations as high as 12,000 feet. That's 4,000 feet higher than where you and I would get altitude sickness. But come November, it's game on. That's when Georgetown's bachelor herd comes down the mountain for mating season's main event. And you only have a 60-day window to see all the action. It's a bit of a Ram Slam thank you man. Rams reach up to 6 feet long and weigh nearly 300 pounds. But their real standout feature is those massive horns. They can grow almost as long as 4 feet and as wide as 1.5 feet. At maturity, those horns can weigh 30 pounds. That'd be like carrying a 4-gallon water jug on your head. Here's a slamming good pro tip. Start your day off early when the sheep are most active. The Bighorn Express is perfect for breathtaking views. And a little Horn 101. Like, how can rams slam into each other without collapsing and concussions?
This is a horn. It's not an antler. And the difference is that antlers get lost once a year. This piece here is actually part of the skull. Okay? It grows up underneath and provides a base for the horn to grow up around it over the lifetime of the animal.
But it's not just size that matters, it's substance.
The horn is made of a substance that you have on your body. It's your fingernails. It's called keratin.
Keratin acts like bubble wrap and cushions the blow. It's like the rams have built-in airbags.
Sheep are just the cruelest animals that we have in this state. The stamina, the ability to survive, to go through the rigors of the rut is just amazing.
Another top spot to see those rigors of the rut is at the Bighorn Viewing Station.
I have never seen two rams hitting each other in my whole life. And they're right here, like right by the highway, like really close.
I played football at Colorado State, the CSU Ram, and being able to see a ram for the first time is a big deal. It really is a big deal.
The Georgetown herd has nearly twice as many females as males. Great odds, right? Wrong. There's just a tiny 2-day fertility window per ewe out of the entire year when they can seal the deal. But rams have mastered the art of weeding out the fertile ewes. It's called a lip curl, and when you see it, you know the ram is activating scent receptors inside the mouth that tell him there's a fertile female nearby. Then it's every ram for himself.
Bighorn ewes are monoestrus, meaning that only one ewe comes into estrus at a time in the herd. And what this does is forces all of the rams in the herd to compete to access for that one ewe.
But only the biggest, baddest bachelors get to fight for the girls. And that's when things start to get ugly.
A ram can't actually look in a mirror and say, wow, I'm a pretty nice ram. You know, this is going to be a good year for me. So they'll get into a huddle. They'll actually rub their horns on other rams to feel how big their horns are to the others. During those interactions, sometimes they'll get a little more antagonistic.
It's like a ram rugby scrum as they drop into a low stretch, before throwing a few low blows. And then the gloves really come off.
They'll kind of start eyeing each other. So there's some head turns where they'll turn and kind of turn their eyes downward, and you can see a lot of the white in their eye, and that's a sign of aggression. And they'll walk real stiff-legged. Then after that, you'll start getting the clashes.
Oh, they just hit each other.
So the loser of a clash battle generally leaves the herd with his tail between his legs. And that victor is filled with a lot of pride because he knows he's the big dog on the block and he gets access to all those females in the herd. Like he knows he's gonna, you know, so.
Come summer, all that hard work pays off when ewes take cover to give birth in the narrow cliffs high up in the Rockies. It's their only protection from predators. Luckily, these little guys can climb and walk like champs within a day of being born. To see the slammin' spectacle for yourself, make your way to Georgetown, Colorado in November. Who knows? This little lamb could be the next king of the mountain. We're leaving this smash fest in the Colorado Rockies for the rocky shores of Monterey, California, where we'll track a celebrity sea otter. That's a bit of a hero out here.
Right now I'm looking for Olive. She's a female sea otter that washed up on a beach just south of here, covered in oil in 2009. We were able to wash and rehabilitate her and re-release her into the wild. And we've been tracking her to monitor her reproductive success.
But Olive isn't just a hero because she's a survivor. These cuddly, cute critters are actually saving the planet, one snack at a time.
There's more to sea otters than just the charismatic, cute animal. They're the top predator in the system.
That system is Monterey Bay's giant kelp ecosystem, home to over 1,000 plant and animal species, including these amazing eco-warriors. You see, kelp acts as the planet's lungs, storing nearly 20 megatons of carbon in its leafy limbs. That's about 15 million passenger cars worth of carbon emissions a year. But sea urchins destroy kelp. Not good for anyone. Enter the otter. Their appetite for urchin destruction keeps everything in check.
They feed on sea urchins, and so you have a very vibrant kelp forest ecosystem, lots of animals when you have sea otters present.
But the urchins aren't exactly easy pickings, and the sea otter workaround is nothing short of amazing. Sea otters use tools. They are one of the only mammals, other than primates, to use tools.
What they tend to do is find a rock, and they'll keep it stored in a flap, kind of in their armpit. Oftentimes they'll put the rock on their stomach and they'll bang the prey item against the rock on their stomach to crack it open.
Impressive, right? And while southern sea otters may be the world's smallest marine mammal, they're also the largest member of the weasel family, and they eat nearly 25% of their body weight daily. That's like a 200-pound man eating almost 50 pounds of hamburger a day.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
For the ultimate otter viewing pro tip, hop in a kayak and launch your own Olive search party. It's the best way to get a close-up view of Olive and her planet-saving posse. Olive has a taste for the finer things. How much would her seafood buffet cost us if we ate like an otter for a week? Is it A, $500, B, $1,000, or C, $1,500? The answer, when United States of Animals returns. How much would Olive the Otter's seafood buffet cost us if we ate like an otter for a week? The answer is C, $1,500 for 25 pounds of fresh clams and urchins per week. Seems fitting for a planet-saving star like Olive. And if you come to Monterey Bay in the spring, you don't need a TMZ tour to see this celebrity.
Yep, that's her. That's Olive. She's got a pup right now. So Olive's a total success story because she not only is thriving, but we've been able to document at least 3 successful pups. Olive isn't just a celebrity here locally, she also has fans worldwide, and she really is an ambassador for her species and for other oiled wildlife.
Today, you can paddle your way through Monterey Bay or hop on a boat for guaranteed sea otter sightings. But it wasn't always that easy. In the 1800s, the sea otter population was nearly hunted into extinction. The reason? The thickest fur on the planet. 800 million hair fibers make up a waterproof outer coat and a thick underfur that traps air for insulation. But keeping it clean is a full-time job and a matter of life and death.
Sea otters spend a lot of time grooming. They don't have blubber like a dolphin or a sea lion, so they spend a lot of time maintaining their very thick fur.
If the hair gets dirty or clogged with oil, the coat's no longer waterproof and the sea otters could freeze. But all this grooming takes time and energy, a lot of energy, which means the otters need time to recharge. So remember this pro tip. Otters like to cuddle up when resting, so keep your eyes peeled for these groups of otters, called rafts.
They're very energetically stressed, and the kelp forest is a great place because they're able to wrap up in the kelp blades so they don't drift off.
It's the ultimate spa day. And just like human spas, the mantra out here is, do not disturb.
So how do we know if we're disturbing their behavior? What it takes is just observing what they're doing. So if, for example, you see an otter start to swim away, that's definitely a disturbance and it's a sign you should be backing off. You can just wait there and the animals will pretty much pop up next to you.
It's incredible. We love seeing the sea otters all together rolling around. They're so cute.
It is so awesome to be out with the wildlife and being like right next to it is really great.
So for your chance to get next to these guardians of the galaxy, mark your calendars for a trip to Monterey Bay next spring. You won't be disappointed. While the sea otters are saving the planet, we're heading to a desert oasis in Hereford, Arizona, just 90 miles southeast of Tucson, where you can hold the world's tiniest bird in the palm of your hand. Meet the hummingbird, a pollinating powerhouse on a migratory mission. Visit the Casa de San Pedro Birding B&B next September to participate in one of only about 100 hummingbird banding projects in the US and Canada. Nice work if you can get it, considering their office is in an earthbound Garden of Eden. These are the Sky Islands, part tropical, part temperate. The Sky Islands are the closest thing to paradise in North America. In fact, it's one of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth, second only to Brazil's rainforest, because it's where 2 mountain ranges and 2 deserts merge. And every fall, all eyes are on one tiny pollinator. That's when thousands of hummingbirds swoop in for a little R&R along their migratory route. From Alaska to as far south as Mexico, that's at least 2,700 miles. But why stop here? Because it's a nectar buffet like no place else.
They find very few sources for food, so feeding hummingbirds is something that helps them tremendously on their journey.
And hummers remember every single flower patch and feeder visited during their lifetime. Thanks to their amazing brains, they count for nearly 5% of their body weight. Proportionately, that's twice the size of the human brain. At 3.8 grams, some hummingbirds weigh less than a penny. And babies? They're the size of a coffee bean. But what they lack in size, they make up for in skill. They're the only birds that can fly backwards and even upside down. And forget birds of a feather flocking together. Hummingbirds fly solo. In groups, they be easy prey. Alone, they stay under predators' radars. And here's a pro tip for you. Mornings and evenings are prime gorging times for hummers.
A lot of places you might see 1 or 2 hummingbirds that come to your little household feeder. Here, if you sit out on a patio, you might see 20 or 30 in the same 2-hour period.
Which is exactly why the Southeast Arizona Bird Observatory sets up shop here every fall to band the birds, to track and monitor their population and migratory patterns. But if you want to study them, you have to catch them first.
You have to have a lot of patience.
And that's no easy task, considering they are the animal kingdom's equivalent to a fighter jet.
Going to the feeder. 3, 2, 1.
Hummingbirds and fighter jet pilots share one amazing ability. Do you know what it is? The answer when United States of Animals returns. So, what amazing ability does a hummingbird share with a fighter jet pilot? Hummingbirds and fighter jet pilots are the only organisms in the world that can reach nearly 10 G acceleration as they pull out of a dive. 10 Gs! And if you come to the Sky Islands in the southeast Arizona desert in August or September during fall migration, you can harness the power of its tiny jet engine. That is, of course, if you can get your hands on one.
Going to the feeder. 3, 2, 1.
Here, you can have a hands-on experience at one of only about 100 hummingbird banding projects in the US and Canada.
And now Sherry's wrapping her in our little net and hanging her from our scale. We call this our little bird taco.
It's a tourist experience that you can't do just anywhere, and it's all free too. You can't beat that kind of experience.
Once all the stats are logged, it's time for liftoff.
I'm going to let go of him because he's ready to leave. There he goes.
Next fall, grab your binoculars and make your way to the majestic Sky Islands for an experience like nowhere else. We're leaving these flying gems in the Sky Islands for Kiowa Island, South Carolina, where a pod of dolphins risks life and fin every day for food on land. Yep, you heard right. These dolphins hunt on land.
There it is.
The only dolphins in the world that rely on this dangerous hunting technique day in and day out are in the Mid-Atlantic's Barrier Islands. And the best time to see it firsthand is in the fall at Captain Sam's Inlet. Meet the Seabrook Island gang of resident dolphins.
These are dolphins that live back in these estuaries and never really migrate anywhere. And basically they're using the local environment to their advantage.
It's amazing. We just love watching the dolphins come jumping out of the water onto the soft mud bank. They're huge.
These Atlantic bottlenose dolphins can weigh between 400 and 600 pounds and reach up to 8 feet in length. But to stay healthy, they eat about 20 to 30 pounds of food per day. And that's where it gets tricky.
Well, if you're a dolphin, you're pretty quick, but you're trying to catch a fish that might be 6 inches or less. So you've got to come up with a pretty good strategy how to get this fish.
That's exactly what this gang of geniuses did. Nearly 50 years ago, a pod of resident dolphins taught themselves to hunt differently, and the skill has been passed down from generation to generation. Here's how it works. At low tide, the island's mud banks are exposed and schools of mullet are backed into a condensed area, like sitting ducks. Seabrook Island dolphins ID the unsuspecting prey with their echolocating skills. And once they've locked on their target, the gang teams up in groups of 2 to 6, working together and charging at speeds around 20 miles per hour before herding and thrashing the bait ball into a frenzy.
Look.
Give him that shallow water. Look at him.
When the time is right, the leader screeches the command, and the team lines up in a bow formation before one final burst of speed. That launches them onto the shore, where they suck down their seafood smorgasbord.
Oh, there it is. We got these salt marshes, and that provides this perfect spot for dolphins to be able to essentially herd fish up onto the bank, where you've got the beach exposed. This allows them to get up out of the water onto the beach with the fish and easily kind of be able to wiggle their way back down into the water.
And that's the key. These dolphins could beach themselves, die from sunburn, or get crushed under their massive weight once on land. It's a risky move, but the results are worth it.
It's an amazing experience to see an entire dolphin come out of the water and slide up into the mud, catching fish and slide right back in. You really get to understand how big they are, how intelligent they are, and then you get to see those pink bellies, which is kind of cool, because how often do you see dolphin bellies?
How about never? Unless, of course, you have insider info. These dolphins strand feed every day at low tide, but the best time of year to see this doll phenomenon for yourself is in the fall before the mullet heads south. Another pro tip to keep in mind? Follow the pelican.
When they're down under the water, you can't always figure out where they're going, but if you've got a small flock of pelicans that all of a sudden just goes directly to this one spot right on the bank, and that is a good possibility that's where the dolphins are headed. They kind of know something might be up ahead of time, and they want the leftovers.
Can you blame them? Forget everything you thought you knew about animals in America, because you've got the best seats to a heavyweight battle.
Oh my goodness.
As elephant seals duke it out. Then soar with a whooping crane's wingman.
We teach whooping cranes how to migrate.
On their flight for species survival. Then go a mile high to discover what makes moose take a dive. And hit the beach for a spectacle you'll scream over. The grunion are running, and you've got to see it to believe it. Welcome to your field guide to the most incredible wildlife in America. This is the United States of Animals. And this is Fight Night. You have a front row seat to the bloody battles of these northern elephant seals. Heavyweight muscle measured in tons. And they're in sunny California looking for love.
There is no easier place in the world to see an elephant seal. You're right there.
There is Piedras Blancas at the southern tip of Big Sur. And for 3 months out of the year, it's center stage to a spectacle of battles, birthing, and breeding that will secure their species' survival.
He's attacking! Fight! No, that one's huge right there. See him right there? He's huge.
they're beyond huge. They're massive. In November, adult males come ashore weighing in at 4,500 pounds, roughly the size of an SUV, while females are much smaller at a mere 1,300 pounds. But while here, they go on a major diet. You see, most of their year is spent out in the Pacific. They're chasing down food and packing on the pounds. When they get to Piedras Blancas, they won't eat for 3 months. They're there to give birth and breed. There's no time for anything else. And when all is said and done, they'll have burned off 1/3 of their body weight. For you or me, losing that much weight that fast would be a killer diet.
It's just fantastic. You've only ever seen this in a zoo before. This is just incredible.
Actually, you won't see this in a zoo. This is their one chance to mate for the year. So the sheer numbers are staggering.
There's so many elephant seals around here that I feel like you expect to come see like 5, 10, and there's 100.
Try over 17,000 on this 6-mile stretch of beach. And while the beach looks like it's total chaos, it's actually highly organized, with dominant males staking claim to sections of beachfront.
The birthing and breeding season begins with the big males coming in late November and early December and contesting for dominance over a section of the beach.
And we call those guys beach masters.
He's the beach master! He's the beach master! He has scars!
Every male elephant seal will have scars. They're kind of a badge of honor, since every year males must battle to be one of over 100 beach masters for the entire 6-mile stretch of seals.
I thought dating was hard till I saw this, but this is a lot worse.
Oh my goodness.
And you can't ignore that proboscis. That nose got them their name.
So that's an important measure of their strength. They put their head back, their nose actually drops above their mouth, and they can inflate the nose, and that affects the sound.
It's like two guys revving their car engines at a stoplight. One might be louder, but that doesn't mean they'll win. And here's a pro tip. Don't get close enough to race one.
They can move up to 25 miles an hour. You cannot outrun them.
It's very loud and aggressive. Quite a strange noise. It's very weird.
It may be weird, but it attracts the ladies. Groups of 40 to 50 females called harems will set up house around their closest beach master. In this beachfront bungalow, all the magic happens. So what happens to the males that don't make the cut? Well, they have two choices. Hang out in the sidelines.
We have a number of areas we call losers' beaches, not too flattering.
Or sneak into the harems.
They're fun to watch because they're very nervous.
Because they know that if the beachmaster catches them, there's gonna be a battle, and they're gonna lose.
You've got to
If you
come
get the
here.
opportunity to see this,
Yeah.
you've got to do it.
Definitely.
There's no excuse not to. They're just off Pacific Highway 1, and it's just a short walk to the boardwalk. But you've got a small window to catch all the drama. So, here's the deal. If you want to see the Beachmaster battles, come around the first week of December. But if you want to catch the births, then come near the end of January.
It's adorable. The babies are really cute.
Here's a pro tip. The way to spot a new birth is to watch for seagulls. They clean up after baby births. Firstborn, these squeaky bundles of joy weigh in at 75 pounds, but in just 4 weeks, they'll balloon to a hefty 350, thanks to Mama Seal's milk. It's a sloppy surrey of proteins and 50% fat. That's 10 times more fat than a human's. So, let's give Mama Seal her props. In a little over 4 weeks, she's given birth, nursed and weaned her pup, and mated, so to give birth next year.
Okay, I think this wave's gonna get him in.
Make sure you get to Piedras Blancas,
Oh, somersault!
because if these seals can survive the vast Pacific, they'll be back next year. Just watch out for road waves. We're leaving the beach battles behind and joining a one-of-a-kind flight that started last fall in Wisconsin and is now ending its 1,200-mile journey 20 miles south of Tallahassee in St. Marks, Florida. Meet your new wingman, the whooping crane. They've been around for 60 million years. But these whoopers come with one strange chaperone. They have a mechanical mom guiding their way.
It's just quite the sight. It captures the hearts of kids, adults, even grandparents.
But it's been a bumpy flight. It seems that back in the 1800s, the population was close to 20,000. Fast forward to 1941, they were down to less than 20 in the whole world. Today, thanks to some unique conservation efforts, there are over 300.
Since 2001, we've been leading a new generation of whooping cranes south every year, and we're building the population up slowly until it becomes self-sustaining.
But they're still a rare sight, and they've bred quite a fan base.
This is where everyone who is called a craniac, those are people that love whooping cranes, they take off from work, they take their kids out of school, they pack up the dog, and they come down, and it's like 4th of July.
The whoopers have permission to land in Florida, but how in the world does someone train a bird to fly with a plane? What came first, the ultralight or the egg? And we'll meet Levi and Peepers, the Romeo and Juliet of the whooping world. The record for the longest animal migration was recently broken by a 9-year-old gray whale named Varvara. Where did her record-breaking round trip take her? Was it A, from Alaska to Australia, B, California to Greece, or C, from Russia to Mexico? The answer when United States of Animals returns. A 9-year-old gray whale named Varvara broke the record for the longest animal migration when she traveled from Russia to Mexico and back again in 14,000 miles. While not nearly as long as Varvara's trip, our 4.5-month-old whooping cranes are nearing the end of their first 1,200-mile migration from Wisconsin to Florida's Panhandle. So what's the trick to getting whoopers to follow your plane?
So there's this natural instinct of imprinting, and they basically pay attention to the first thing that nurtures them. So we just substitute pilot for parent, and the birds imprint on us. And then we condition them to follow the aircraft.
And it all starts in spring, before they're even hatched.
Our training starts when the chick is still in the egg. But as soon as they punch a hole, they start communicating with the parent. They use what's called a brood call. So we play a recording of that brood call to them, and we also play a sound of our engine noise, trying to get used to that whole sound.
Once hatched, imprinting continues, but in stealth mode.
These birds are isolation reared, so anybody who goes near the birds anytime has to wear a big baggy costume. They have to carry a puppet. It kind of looks like a whooping crane, but our real motivation is to actually disguise the human form.
2 weeks in, and the young whoopers will follow their puppet mother anywhere. In this case, inches from the spinning prop of an aircraft.
He's used to the aircraft, used to the noise, and they're running and they're holding their little wings out. You know, they have no idea what those wings are for, but they're holding them out because instinct tells them to do it. Must be such a revelation for them, you know. They had an epiphany, and all of a sudden they got off the ground. It must be incredible.
By the time autumn blows in, the 4.5-month-old puppet-reared whooping cranes are almost full-grown. Their wings, close to 7 feet wide and strong enough to reach speeds of 45 miles per hour, will take them on their first 1,200-mile migration from Wisconsin to Florida's Panhandle.
Wild birds could probably do it in anywhere from 3 to 7 days, but with the ultralights, it takes them sometimes up to 60-something days. But it's not the limitation of the birds, it's the limitation of the ultralights on how far they can fly each day.
And there's no limitation to the joy the whoopers bring to the rabid craniacs on this cool December morning.
The weather's good, the winds are low, and the birds are coming.
The exact date they land is always up in the air, but it's a safe bet that they'll be landing mid-December.
I've had 2 special days in my life. The first day was when I got married, and the second was seeing those young whooping cranes come into St. Mark's, and just brings tears to my eyes.
It's amazing. There is just something about these birds that, goes right to the heart.
Come spring, these whoopers will get the itch to return to Wisconsin.
They'll just take off. There's no bags to pack, there's no goodbyes.
And there's no mother ultralight. They're on their own to make it back and to teach their future brood.
If we're lucky, they come right back to where we introduced them.
That's what you call success. It's amazing the power a flying puppet can have. Except in one case, where the power of love was far greater. Meet Levi, a graduate of the 2001 class of migrating whoopers. On his first spring trip back to Wisconsin, he spotted Peepers, a whooper raised in captivity and living at the Homosassa Springs State Park in Citrus County, Florida. It was love at first sight.
Whatever it was about Peepers, that was the girl of his dreams.
And no matter what they tried, they could not separate the two. Okay, I'll say it. Lovebirds.
Persistence paid off, and they have been together ever since.
The next showtime to catch this love story is April to May, mating season. But you better bring earplugs.
Whooping cranes got their name because they make a whooping sound. They spend the day grooming and dancing to one another and doing the breeding ritual and just kind of enjoying life, I guess.
True love, sealed with a... We're migrating west and a mile high to North Park, Colorado, just south of the Wyoming border, and smack dab in the middle of moose country.
North Park is considered the moose capital of Colorado. People come from all over the world to see moose up here.
Jim's right. The North Park area of Colorado is crawling with moose. It's one of a handful of southwestern states where moose can be found. But if you came here 30 years ago, you'd be lucky to spot one. So how did they get to Colorado in the first place? Moose, the largest members of the deer family, are usually found up north in places like Alaska, Canada, and Maine. But for years, they've been making their way south, down through the Rocky Mountains. With its high peaks, frigid temperatures, and scattered vegetation, the Rockies are a home away from home. So by the 1850s, North Park residents were spotting wandering moose. Recognizing good habitat when they see it, state wildlife experts relocated 24 moose from Utah and Wyoming to the North Park area in 1978. Today, the population has skyrocketed to over 2,300 moose loose in Colorado.
You don't have the dense forests that you have in other parts of the country. You'll often see a moose when you're just driving the main highways because it's so open.
But you don't want to have to wait for a moose drive-by. So take a little tip and make sure you're here in the fall. That's the best time to catch them, for the rut. That's when they're looking for love, and they don't care if you stare.
During the rut, bulls are moving around. You could see them any time of the day. Where a lot of animals will run from you and you don't have a chance to view them and take pictures, moose will sometimes stay forever.
Just remember, the moose are wild and demand respect.
Moose can get very aggressive. If you get close enough to a moose where they lay their ears back and if you see the hair stand up on the back of their neck, you're in trouble.
Our pro tip? Bring a long lens for the camera. And remember, no selfies, please.
When bulls are rutting, that's all they're thinking about. Their hormones are leading them in one direction and they're not thinking about anything else.
So take care, because these beasts are enormous. Males are 1,000 pounds, standing up to 7 feet tall from head to hoof, taller than LeBron James. With a top speed of 35 miles per hour and leading with an antler rack up to 6 feet wide. They can get to you before you have time to open your camera app. But don't you worry, we're about to give you the down low on where to go and who to follow to spot yourself a mighty moose in Colorado. Might want to put swim trunks on your packing list. Suffering from an upset stomach? A moose might be able to help. What part of the moose is being used to treat stomach ulcers? Is it A, their antlers, B, their droppings, or C, their milk? The answer when United States of Animals returns. What part of the moose is being used to treat stomach ulcers? The answer is C, their milk. Mark this down as a true alternative therapy. Folks in Kostroma, Russia, are drinking moose milk in lieu of antacids. Here's a pro tip for you. Never try to milk a moose. But you can watch them swim. That's because moose are renowned swimmers. With a speed up to 6 miles an hour and the ability to dive as deep as 18 feet just to reach water weeds on the lake bottom. But Colorado moose have it a little different.
They've got big lakes back there in the east and in Canada where moose swim really long distances. We just don't have that here.
What they do have is beaver ponds.
We see moose around beaver ponds all the time, and they'll be belly deep or deeper in the water, and they'll put their heads underwater to feed on vegetation.
And that vegetation has the same nutrients, high amounts of potassium and sodium that make all moose want to get wet. So it's a fair bet that if you're at a beaver dam in Colorado, a moose is soon to follow. So get yourself out to North Park for some of the best moose viewing this fall. Grab your flip-flops and follow us west to the Birch Aquarium in La Jolla, California, where we've got a hot date under a full moon. Because tonight is a rare time when you can get ankle deep in a magical migration. Welcome to a Southern California original, a grunion run. What's a grunion? Grunions are tiny 5 to 6 inch fish, about the length of a dollar bill. They only breed in Southern California and Mexico between Point Concepcion and Point Abrejos in Baja California. And you can only catch them for a couple of hours under a full or new moon when the tide is the highest. Because grunion are the only fish in California that leave water to lay their eggs in the beach.
Tonight, hopefully, around 10 o'clock, you'll be able to see them.
And that's where the fun begins.
I just saw a grunion up close.
So that very first fish, they run right up to the fish, or they get really excited, they're telling all their friends there's a fish right over there.
But you gotta be here at the right time to catch this breathless migration.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
As high tide strikes, females ride the waves to the beach. Using their tail as a drill, they dig themselves into the sand, laying up to 3,600 eggs. The males follow, as many as 8 to 1 female. They'll fertilize the eggs, then flip-flop back to the ocean. To survive this epic trek, these walking fish learned how to hold their water.
They take the last breath in the water and they're able to close off their gills.
Locking off their gills keeps the oxygenated water inside their bodies, allowing them to survive on land.
We're talking anywhere from 2 minutes to over 20 minutes. Sometimes we see this fish spawning for 2 hours on the beach.
And here's a pro tip. The best place to catch this breathless migration is at the ends of the beach. And to bring a red light, flashlights tend to scare them off. And what about the grunion eggs? They stay buried in the sand until the next high tide, around 10 days.
They're burying them just about an inch or two below the surface of the sand. So you don't want to disturb those eggs, because once they're exposed, those young don't have a really good chance of survival.
On top of surviving our sand castles, if the tide conditions aren't just right, the eggs will go into suspended animation. That's right, they know when to hatch. They'll remain in the dry sand until the waves hit critical mass, and then catch a wave back to the Pacific. If you're planning on taking a date to the Grunion Run, make sure to get to the beach between late March and early June, the peak spawning time. But remember, they only hit the beach on nights with a full or new moon, and that's only for a couple hours. So set the date and don't be late to catch a Grunion, a true American original. Forget everything you thought you knew about animals in America and go undercover for one of the world's most epic migrations in Nebraska. Or get down and dirty with the cows behind America's cowboys.
We could be involved in a stampede here.
Then come face to fang with a deadly coral snake in the Florida suburbs. And you thought your neighbors were unique.
Some people just call it crazy.
Head to the country's biggest apartment complex for birds. Welcome to your field guide to the most incredible wildlife in America. This is the United States of animals. And this is the mother of all migrations.
This morning is just amazing.
We have the greatest migration in North America.
It's an epic migration that's been happening for at least 34 million years. When 650,000 sandhill cranes take to the skies for a lengthy journey from Mexico to their summer nesting grounds as far north as Siberia.
This is where to go if you want to go see the cranes.
Thousands of visitors from all over the world flock here every spring for this legendary liftoff, including some real VIPs.
Jane Goodall comes every year and she compares this place to the Serengeti.
But out here, you don't have to be a celebrity to get the red carpet treatment. Just book a VIP excursion in March with the Crane Trust for the experience of a lifetime.
Your VIP blinds, they're all as close as you can possibly get to the sandhill cranes. This is the place to be.
It's a viewing experience typically reserved for the world's best wildlife photographers. But you can get VIP access like Miss Goodall, too.
You really become part of nature. And you realize this has been going on for millions of years. And it's been here the whole time.
Here is this 80-mile stretch of Nebraska's Platte River in Wood River, Nebraska. It's pretty quiet out here for most of the year. But come spring, these wetlands are the prime spot for cranes looking to rest, refuel, and really put on a show.
We are home of the largest roost site for the sandhill cranes.
It's like center stage for nature's own Broadway play, complete with elegant dance moves, gorgeous scenery, and incredible costumes.
One of the things I like the most about cranes is they're so expressive.
That they are, especially when it comes to getting their groove on.
I'm here filming one, he's flittering the wings back and forth. It's kind of doing a dance. It was pretty cool.
Technically, it's called displaying, but with all the grace and skill of a prima ballerina, it's more like Mother Nature's bird ballet. And with over 40 distinct displays, these cranes put on quite a show, especially when it comes to mating.
In a mating display, the bird will do a very beautiful, come down like this, and touch, and go back up, and often click bills in the middle. Males will go down and pick up a stick or a clump of grass and throw it in the air and jump. To put it in human terms, it's almost like young men showing off.
But what brings all these dancing cranes to the Cornhusker State anyway? It's the heart of the Central Flyway Migration Corridor. What does that mean? Well, this crucial corridor spans a 1 million square mile stretch of North America's Great Plains. That's just about the size of Alaska, Texas, and Florida combined. And it's chock full of the diverse marsh and wetland habitats these cranes depend on for survival.
There were tens of thousands of cranes and really spectacular. It's just awe-inspiring.
And so are the stats. Sandhill cranes stand up to 4 feet tall and have a wingspan of 6.5 feet. That's bigger than Dwayne Wade. But here's the crazy thing. These massive migrators only weigh around 7 to 11 pounds. Wade? He tips the scales at 220 pounds. And here's a pro tip for the best experience. Go in the morning.
The mornings almost feel sort of sacred. We walk to the blinds in complete silence, and the birds slowly wake up. And then you start to be able to see their shapes. Then, as the sun really rises over the horizon, they come alive. And the sounds, it gives you goosebumps.
It's worth getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for.
It really did blow me away.
And if you aren't blown away by the sights, you will be blown away by their sound. Cranes bugle and trumpet so loudly that you can hear them up to 2.5 miles away.
If you don't know much about their social behavior and social structure, it looks like a bunch of birds going, and just standing there.
But that crane cacophony is actually a key part of their communication. In fact, it's one of the ways cranes keep track of their family members in this sea of strangers.
You gotta ask yourself, when they all look quite similar, how do you find your mate or how do you find your offspring? The amazing thing is they have a lot of variation in their calls that their family can recognize.
You have to be here to experience it, just the sounds and just to watch in real life.
So, these migrating masterpieces are pros at singing, dancing, romance, and, oh yeah, survival. Did you know 99% of species that ever existed on Earth are now extinct? 99% gone. Not sandhill cranes. They're one of the planet's most successful life forms ever. So successful, in fact, that they pretty much stopped evolving 10 million years ago. So, when you book your VIP viewing party with the Crane Trust next spring, it's like booking a trip back in time.
As Jane Goodall says, it's breathtaking.
With reviews like that, how could you not go? From cranes in the plains to longhorns in the Lone Star State, we're heading to Fort Worth, Texas. Birthplace of America's favorite hero, the cowboy. But without one key creature, those cowboys may have never existed. Meet the Texas Longhorn, proud symbol of Lone Star strength, cowboy courage, and that tough Texas swagger.
The Texas Longhorn is kind of the foundation of the culture of Texas. This breed is the breed that gave rise to the Texas Cowboy.
Tipping the scales at up to 1,400 pounds and standing nearly 5 feet tall at the hip, these burly bovine are right at home in our biggest state in the lower 48.
They're tough. They're tough, and they're really go-getters.
But there's one.
Oh my gosh.
Standout feature.
86 inches tip to tip.
That got them their name.
Compared to other cattle, they're huge.
How big are their horns?
Maybe.
For the record, the longest set of longhorn horns reached 117 inches, nearly 10 feet. And unlike other cattle breeds, those hefty horns come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. And if you head to Fort Worth in the spring when the Texas wildflowers are in bloom, you'll get to see these iconic horns up close and personal.
Welcome to the Fort Worth herd. Thank you guys for coming to cow camp. You're going to start off by meeting 3 of those great big giant steers over there. Rusty, Rojo, and Norman. Those are the first 3 steers you're going to meet. All of these longhorns are steers. They're all boys.
Just to clarify, a bull is a fully intact male. A steer is a castrated male. A heifer is a female that has not had a calf. And a cow is a female that has had a calf. Lock that info away for trivia night. Here's a pro tip. Schedule your trip to the Fort Worth Stockyard where every day, except Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, at 11:30 and 4, you can see these massive beasts meandering down Main Street in a trek through time.
The Twice Daily Cattle Drive occurs every day, 7 days a week, to commemorate when longhorns were driven here in Texas along the historic Chisholm Trail.
This trek is just a few hundred yards, but back in the 1800s, the cattle drive was one long haul.
Cattle had to go about 10 or 12 miles a day from Texas up to Kansas. There were hundreds of thousands of cattle, the biggest livestock movement probably in history in the world.
But these iconic Texas natives, pride and joy of the state, they're not so native after all.
Cattle were first brought over actually by Christopher Columbus on his second voyage to the Caribbean in 1493. They did very well in the New World. They multiplied very rapidly.
For nearly 400 years, large feral herds of cattle roamed the rugged turf of what would become Mexico and the southwest U.S. But it wasn't easy in this new world, and the breed had to adapt to survive.
The cattle that survived and passed on their genes were best able to defend their calves against predation and withstand drought and harsh conditions from the range.
At the end of that 400-year run, Longhorns had evolved into Darwin's darlings. And Texas can't get enough of them.
There's a symbol of Texas.
Not surprising then, that the University of Texas made the Longhorn its school mascot back in the 1880s. But when did the school adapt this now famous hook 'em horns hand signal? Was it A, 1927, B, 1942, or C, 1955? The answer when the United States of Animals returns. The mascot of the University of Texas is the Longhorn. But when did the school adapt the now famous hook 'em horns hand signal? The answer is C, 1955. Sports Illustrated later named it the top hand signal in college sports. And if you head to the Fort Worth Stockyard next spring, you can see some standouts of the state's Longhorn herd and see if you've got what it takes to be a cowboy.
The Fort Worth Stockyards is the best place to see a Texas Longhorn because they are here on display in this beautiful historic district all year long.
But to get here, Longhorns had to endure some serious natural selection to become the iconic Texas herd they are today. So what traits turn these new kids in the New World into the stalwart survivors they are today? Let's start with self-defense.
If there's a predator around, the cows will gather the calves up in a small herd and then circle them with their horns facing out. So a predator can't get to the calves without having to go through this line of horns.
And when you're trekking tons of miles, it helps to have the right gear.
They also have longer legs than a lot of cattle. They're very good at walking very long distances to find food.
And beggars can't be choosers.
Most cattle will avoid something like prickly pear cactus, but the Longhorns have very tough tongues and teeth, and they're able to eat on the cactus and eat these pads.
So, this iconic symbol of Texas fought its way tooth and nail, or hoof and horn, to the top of its game. Would you expect anything less from this tough Texan?
One of my favorite characteristics of the cattle is their independence, the fact that they're able to survive. They're kind of fiercely independent, much like Texans in general are.
So, if you're tough enough for the total Texas experience, make your way to Fort Worth, where the Wild West is still alive and well. From the Lone Star State to the Sunshine State, we're headed to DeLand, Florida, just 20 miles west of Daytona Beach, where the sun and surf give way to the slither and serpent. This is the deadly eastern coral snake.
Look at it. Oh my God!
And there's over 100,000 of these colorful killers crawling their way through the southeast states. But you probably never know it.
Coral snakes basically blend into suburbia without much trouble. They'll just work themselves into the areas around the homes.
But they're super secretive.
You may live in a house for 10 years and you don't know they're there. They're super shy.
They're also super poisonous.
Coral snake venom is actually a terrifically toxic snake venom. We think 5 milligrams is a lethal dose for an adult human being.
That's all it takes. Just one little 5 milligram drop of venom to drop you. Pretty powerful stuff. But we've got a pro tip guaranteed to deliver the best and safest way to see these snakes in action. It's the Reptile Discovery Center, where experts extract venom for medical research.
We saw the venomous snakes. My favorite was the coral snake, and they're red, black, and gold, and they're very fast.
But those colors aren't just for show. They're a warning to would-be predators.
Banding pattern on the non-venomous snakes is different. with red always surrounded by black, so red touches black, venom lac.
Come again? Turns out there's a rhyme to help you decipher the snakes that can kill you from the snakes that can't.
The rhyme for coral snakes is red to yellow, kill a fellow, red to black, venom lac.
So, let's get this straight. A red band next to a yellow band means it's a venomous coral snake. So keep that pro tip in mind if you make your way to Central Florida's coral snake country. Or head to the Reptile Discovery Center to see this triple color thread. That's where you can see live venom extractions in action. But to extract the venom, the experts need to extract the snake first.
We've got a house probably just a quarter mile up the road here, and we're just off the road. Still great snake habitat, great areas to find venomous snakes.
Use your head, and don't try this at home.
Whoa, here we go, guys, here we go.
The non-venomous scarlet snake mimics the coral snake's color pattern to ward off predators. But many predators use mimicry too. Which one of these clever hunters uses vocal mimicry? Is it A, wolves, B, cats, or C, foxes? The answer when the United States of Animals returns. Which of these clever hunters uses vocal mimicry? The answer is B, cats. Cats have been known to tweet and chatter to lure in unsuspecting birds. Like cats, coral snakes are right at home in the suburbs. But don't worry, coral snakes feed on frogs, lizards, and here's the kicker, other snakes, including other coral snakes. But out here in DeLand, Florida, venom experts are collecting these colorful cannibals for the greater good.
Whoa, whoa, here we go, guys, here we go. All right, look at this little guy. Looks like probably a female. Incidentally, nobody would ever grab a coral snake safely by the tail. This is the old don't try this at home thing.
We repeat, do not try this at home.
So we're gonna bag this little snake up and bring her back and add her to the venom line.
To see this little lady in person, head to the Reptile Discovery Center for the Venom Extraction Live, Thursdays through Saturdays, 2 shows daily, 11:30 a.m. and 3 p.m.
Just watching them take the venom and to be that close, just really neat. The whole thing, everything was awesome.
And while these toxic reptiles usually reach about 2 feet in length, they start out about 5 inches long and about as wide as your average spaghetti noodle. And they're fully venomized right out of the egg. It's that venom that's getting them lots of attention lately.
Their venoms offer a whole host of applications in medical research. Of course, it's how we make antivenom. So the very antidote to treat snake bite comes from the snake himself.
But unlike the other 5 poisonous snakes in Florida, coral snakes don't have retractable fangs. They deliver their venom by chewing on you. Not good. So keep your eyes peeled for this triple color thread. And remember the rhyme, red to yellow, kill a fellow, red to black, venom lac. Words to live by. From Florida's colorful coral snake to a purple pioneer, we're headed west along the Gulf Coast to Buchholz, Texas, just about 2 hours northwest of Houston, to a high-rise condo complex that's for the birds. The purple martin, to be precise. For hundreds of years, these regal birds have been making the trek from South America to their breeding grounds in the U.S. Pretty standard migration cycle for the bird world. But when it comes to nesting nooks, that's where purple martins break from the norm.
One of the most unique things about purple martins is their need for man-made housing.
Well, that's mostly true. There's a much smaller population of western martins that nest in dead trees and cliffs. Nowadays, around 80% of purple martins head for more modern digs like these at the Martin A4 Ranch. It's like a Trump Tower for the purple martins.
This is the Purple Martin Hilton, the Marriott Essex House of Purple Martins, and some people just call it crazy.
Call it what you will, but one thing's for sure. These birds and their homes are a sight to see.
They're not just egg-making machines. They have their own social life.
And they're creatures of habit. These birds return to the same martin mansions every year.
I really love the martin, how they interact with humans. The birds will look at you, and will really chatter and talk to you. Now, I don't know whether they're telling you to stay away from their house or they're telling you thank you for being such a good landlord.
Either way, an estimated 1 million North Americans are happy to provide housing. And it's no wonder. These birds have a flair for the dramatic.
You'll see one male with his mate. They'll have one apartment. And then another girl will come and grab an apartment below their apartment. Now, if that male goes down there and visits that other female, his female will get upset. And sometimes she will attack the other female and run her off from the house. If you really watch close what's going on in their life, you realize how sociable they are.
Purple martins are swallows, the largest in the family, in fact, at about 8 inches high with a wingspan more than a foot wide. But here's a pro tip for primetime viewing. Try early morning when purple martins leave the roosts for food. That's when flocks of purple martins can be so big that they show up on weather radar. Meteorologists call it a roost ring. Want to attract some of these flying insectivores to your yard? To build your own purple martin paradise, first things first. Location, location, location.
Anybody can put up a house and attract martins as long as they have a nice open flyway or some area with some space around the housing.
And just like any prime real estate, you'll want to keep critters away.
When they're collecting nesting material, and feral cats can catch them pretty easy.
And keep them safe from natural predators.
One of the biggest enemies, predators of martins, are rat snakes. The netting so far is the best thing that we found to keep the snakes out of the nest.
But of course, the final decision goes to Mrs. Martin.
The male will pick out an apartment and he tries to attract the female to come up to it. Once he's attracted a female, that's his mate, and they'll stay together.
Hosting purple martins takes a bit of work, but if you do these steps, they'll come back year after year.
Purple martin's song is beautiful to wake up to. Every morning, when they leave, there will be a real emptiness feeling, and you will look forward all winter to the arrival of your first martin in the spring.
So build a martin house and experience some purple martin's majesty in your own backyard.